So as we suspected, Battlefield 2042's update notes came out today for Season 5 or Update 5.0, however you want to call it. And there's a lot of new info here, a lot of stuff we already knew from, the podcast and the dev notes, but we're going to go through everything that I thought was pretty significant from these update notes. I'll link them in the description below because not everything is covered here, but those are very incremental changes, whereas I'll be covering the big stuff and the small stuff, but the stuff that matters in this video. So let's get straight into it. Okay, we know the new content is coming out. We've got Reclaimed as the new map, the XCE bar, GW36 and BFP50 as the new weapons, an assault rifle, sniper rifle and sidearm respectively. We've got the new grenade types being anti-tank, spring and mini grenades, along with the RPG-7 as gadgets. The RPG is coming over from Portal, while the new grenades are brand new. New season also means new battle pass, as we all know, but also brings the new Vault attachment system and universal cosmetics for Vault guns, meaning you can use almost all of your normal attachments on Vault guns now. I think they've picked and chosen which ones are coming over. So if you want to run your special holo sight that you've got in All Out Warfare on a Vault gun, you now can, which is great. You can also run all of your universal skins on them, so if you have a nice universal skin, whack it on your Vault guns now, you can do so. Talking about reworks, we have the vehicle loadout rework as well. Essentially, this is focusing on ground vehicles, and you can see some of the changes on screen now. But as an example, the BF4 Recon, you can no longer equip the cannons and the explosive weapons on top, meaning it's a lot less area of effect focused. You can only use the minigun, which I think is a very good change because it's a transport, so it shouldn't really be able to abuse explosives, especially in Hazard Zone. We're really going to feel that one. We also have the Irish and Dozer reworks. I've gone over these in a previous video, I'll link that in the description below as well, but essentially Irish's system now resets and isn't as active all the time, meaning that there are periods where you'll have to chain Irishes together to cover an entire area all the time, because if you just have one, there'll be maybe 3 seconds of space where grenades can come through. Dozer is also getting his rework, as he has new animations, sounds, can hold his shield up on zip lines, and gets XP for absorbing hits with his shield. Also coming in 5.0 is the squad system that everyone has asked for, where you can create a new squad, get your friends in a squad with you. Squads now have names and a new screen to select from. Overall, very excited for that one too. We also have the damage UI coming up in 5.0, so you'll be able to see your damage numbers. This used to be an experimental feature that you could turn on. I've had this on for a little while, but this is actually going to show damage numbers as a proper feature you can turn on now, with adjustments of how big you want them, where you want them to be, etc. Now looping back around to Vault guns, we now have their rework in terms of performance as well, as their accuracy and dispersion have been changed to make them more competitive. This only applies to assault rifles though for 5.0, 5.1 will introduce another class and so on and so forth, but for now only assault rifles are getting these changes, meaning they'll be a lot more viable. Can't wait to see how the M4 performs now it's been changed. We also have reports that the sounds are improved on them too. Another rework is the sprint camera. I'm very excited for this one because it adds a lot more weight apparently to the sprinting animations just by changing the camera and making it feel more physical and immersive like older Battlefield games. If you don't like this though and you like the more floaty movement of 2042 with the camera, you can go and turn it off. Another interesting change is that ADS field of view is now active for all players, meaning you won't zoom into the max FOV and you'll stick to the FOV that you've set. This is paired with the universal aim changing that they did a couple of updates back, and I think will essentially allow players to tune in their aim a lot more easily. Now that we've got all the really big stuff out the way, there's a couple of things that aren't in the patch notes that we know of that I'd like to go over. The first of which being that we now have hints going into matches, so when you're in your loading screen there'll be info displayed at the bottom, like shown here, which I think is pretty cool, telling you tips about the game or maybe lore for the map that you're entering into. They've also added some Battlefield 4 DLC player cards like Final Stand, China Rising. You can have player cards that show artwork from these BF4 DLCs, which I think is pretty cool. Also, you can now see squad members on the main screen. I absolutely love this. This makes it so much more immersive when you're gearing up with your squad ready to go into a match. You can see them all in the main screen with their cosmetics, their weapons, their skins. It's great. We've also got the information that some weekly missions that are going to be coming out can actually be progressed faster if you use a certain specialist. For example, there is a weekly mission coming where if you capture 4 objectives, you'll do the weekly mission, but if you capture them as Dozer, it will go twice as fast. I think that's quite an interesting way of balancing the pick rate of different specialists in each match, and I think we'll be seeing a lot more of each certain specialist when their missions come up week by week. Right, let's dive back into the official changes back in the patch notes, starting with your general weapon and audio fixes and adjustments, making the game sound a bit better. This is nothing massive, but it's worth mentioning. And according to DICE, specialist movement sounds now match their gear as well, so maybe if you're Boris for example, you'll hear that turret hitting against your back as you're running. I think that's pretty cool. It'll be interesting to see the extent of this, whether you'll be able to read what an enemy has, maybe behind a corner if you hear them running. A good change coming is that the Ranger now takes more damage from infantry. Love that, you no longer have to rely on spamming explosives at them, you can just shoot them with your main gun and do quite a bit more damage than you used to be. Quite a big one that's tucked away in the smaller patch notes is that Breakthrough is available as an official Portal mode now. You can customize Breakthrough, you can use it, you can play it. That's massive for the Portal community, that's a huge win. The throwing knives now have aim assist as well, which is great. This is one of my biggest complaints on console for throwing knives, is that there was no aim assist. You get no assist at all compared to PC players who obviously don't because they have mouse and keyboard, and it put you at a serious disadvantage when using these, and basically no one uses them on console, and for good reason. But now we've actually got a very good improvement with that. An interesting change is also that grenades no longer detonate from other explosions around them. So you may have thrown a grenade at a target and maybe a silo's gone off or an explosive barrel, and it's caused your grenade to detonate maybe before you wanted it to. And now it won't be detonated from that and will go on the timer. This is good for two reasons. One, it makes it a lot more readable when your nade is going to explode, so you can time it properly, and two, it makes the battlefield a lot more readable. Sometimes you see a grenade coming in and you think you can get to safety in time, but because something in the environment explodes, it goes off and kills you before you expected it. Now with this, you can get to cover and you'll be sorted. Moving on, you can now place insertion beacons in smoke. This is something I heard a lot of people complaining about, so it's good to see that's finally implemented into the game. An interesting rework is concussion grenades as well, as the distance between the grenade and you when it goes off now have different levels of effectiveness. Interesting to see how that will play out on the battlefield. There's not many use these, maybe they will now. Speaking of throwables, you can now carry 2 proximity sensors instead of 1, and deploy 2 instead of 1. To counteract this, their range has also been decreased by 5 meters. I think this is a decent change, to be honest. It'll get weekly missions done faster as well, but I really don't use them that much anymore. I tier 1 them back before season 1, so I really don't use these too much. You'll have to let me know in the comments below what you think of that change. Casper's drone also now has thermals when zooming in, which is really cool. And Sundance has actually had her anti-armor grenade removed completely, meaning the only grenade Sundance has left is the scatter. This does make her role as a crowd control specialist a lot more prominent as you're forced to use the scatter, but it also means you can no longer deter vehicles as Sundance, and your way to do that is now going to be with the anti-armor grenade that's been added in 5.0. DICE's reasoning for this is that due to poor readability when locking on as it displayed incoming missile. Obviously the game doesn't determine whether or not it's a missile or grenade coming at you when you're on a helo, it just tells you missile for both. Meaning that you might deploy your flares when it's really a harmless grenade that's never going to realistically catch up to you, and you'll waste your flares. Let me know what you Sundance mains think of that below. I don't play them too much, so I don't really have an opinion, but I think it's a little weird that we've lost 2 out of 3 of Sundance's grenades since launch, but whatever. The Bolt's windshield is now bulletproof. Not a fan of that change. I think the Bolt isn't as powerful as it used to be, you know, but it's still quite a formidable opponent. And it had quite a small hitbox through the windshield anyway, so you needed to be fairly skilled to kill the pilot in the Bolt. And now you have to use explosives, which is an interesting change. Speaking of interesting, jets now do anti-infantry damage now that they have rocket pods on the sides. That's going to look really cool, jets coming in for strafing runs like with the A10 and Portal. But at the same time, rip more infantry because vehicles are really powerful. And its 30mm cannon has had its dispersion reduced as well. This is going to be an infantry killing machine, and those good jet pilots that already can kill loads of infantry are going to be having a lot of fun with this update for sure. Finally, with a very underwhelming final note, the Longshot Scope now reads as 12 times and not 40 times zoom. That's a lot of information, but I hope you did enjoy and took something from this. If there are any changes that stood out to you out of all of that, let me know in the comments below. What do you think of Season 5 going into it? I'm very, very excited. Can't wait to test it out and see all the changes. One of the weirdest things that I'm excited for is that soldier movement change. The only complaint I have about 2042's movement really is the camera movement when you're sprinting, and now that's being fixed, it's going to be so good. And also the addition of a G36C, very excited for that one. If you'd like to come and talk to me or anybody else that loves this game, head over to the NoSalt Discord, link is in the description below. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.